Destiny 2 Revenant developer live stream. All right, so I have not seen this yet, and I'm curious about this new episode. I mean, the last one, well, it was not great. It was very mixed for me, at least for me. But I am curious about this one for like the whole vampire theme that they showed beforehand. I don't like Scorn, and yet I'm curious about this episode. So if they end up making me enjoy an episode that has Scorn as the theme, that's crazy. So yeah, let's see what they got. Curious. I genuinely, yeah.
Everyone, hello, welcome, good day, good evening, good time zone to you all, and welcome back. We're coming to you live here from beautiful Bungie HQ in Bellevue, Washington. My name is Andy, and I work on the social media team here at Bungie, and today we're thrilled to get to welcome all of you into a very special stream, talking a little bit about what's to come with Act 1 of episode Revenant.
Yeah, and this is obviously just Act 1, so...
And also we're going to go ahead and take a little bit more of a look further down the road and talk a little bit more about Codename Frontiers. But worry not, just like always, you don't have to listen to just me tell you all about it. We have some amazing folks from the Bungie development team here to go ahead and talk through it as well. And I say there's no time like the present. Let's introduce our cast of characters so we can go ahead and dive on in. Starting with someone that you may know if you've tuned into our Into the Light streams in the past, the one and only Jerome Viernich, senior narrative designer
Into the
here
Light
at Bungie. Jerome, how's it going?
It's great. I'm glad to be here.
So Onslaught content?
Thank you, and welcome back again.
Let's not forget about that mode that was actually very successful.
Had a chance to go ahead and check out the Into the Light streams.
Let's
Can you tell us
dial that back,
about
please.
Who you are and what you do here at Bungie?
I hope.
I'm a writer on our fantastic writing team, so that means dialogue, tending to the garden that is our lore, and doing UI UX strings.
Oh yes, lore.
So you're the blank space filler.
That's right. That's right. Press X. That's me.
Okay, I hold down E personally, but we can discuss that.
That's not my department.
That's all right. You know, we're crossplay friendly. It's okay. And then also sitting just next to him, someone who is joining us now in front of the camera, previously a member of our behind the scenes fire team, who does so much of our heavy lifting. The one and only Clayton Kisko, staff designer here at Bungie. Clayton, welcome.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. And hey, second verse, same as the first. Can you tell the folks at home a little bit about who you are and what you do here at Bungie?
Yeah, so I'm a staff designer here, and I work primarily within the activities department. So I am in charge of building the skeleton and framework of the activity, developing the encounters.
You build
and the boss
skeletons.
Fights, as well, and building
confirm skeletons as enemies for Festival of Lost. Actually, that would be like actually pretty funny if they.
I have plenty to dive into. Thanks to you and yours.
Did something with Festival of Lost other than Lost
Sectors. And sitting just next to him, someone that needs no introduction, but will still risk it anyway, just to make sure everyone's all caught up. The one and only the sandbox craft lead here at Bungie, the one and only Mr. Chris Proctor. Chris, how's it going?
Good, thanks, Andy.
So anyone who may not have seen you on the Into the Light streams in the past or heard you
mentioned
in
Into the Light
podcasts
again.
Community, can you tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do here?
So I'm Chris Proctor, Sandbox Craft Lead on Destiny 2 here at Bungie. I work with the rest of the Sandbox team and Destiny leadership, other teams, to make sure that we're always hitting that gameplay quality bar that Bungie is renowned for. I occasionally also make
let's keep doing that and fix the things where the gameplay didn't do so well.
Chat's calling you out immediately. You're getting a lot of love already. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive into episode Revenant, which again is launching just next week on October 8th. But before we go ahead and dive into that, Jerome, we're on the verge now in the last week of completing episode Echoes. Can you tell us a little bit about the story that got us to where we are now?
Sure, absolutely.
Yes,
well, let's start with the death of the witness.
Okay.
Boring.
Who we thoroughly destroyed.
Absolutely.
And his giant, smoky, billowing head dissipated
to be honest,
into a mist of darkness, which then coalesced with the Traveler's
Just
Light,
saying.
right? Crystallizing into the Echoes. Which fell into the Soul System. One of those fell, of course, to Maya Sundaresh, which we know from episode 1. And it fundamentally changed how the Vex saw themselves. And now we're going to get the same treatment with the Scorn, because one of the Echoes will be falling to Fikrul, leader of the undead Elixir army. And similarly, that Echo is going to prompt the Scorn to evolve, to see themselves in a new way, and to fundamentally change.
Because they weren't bad enough.
What they are. And I won't spoil anything. I'll let players discover that for themselves. But suffice it to say, Fikrul is evolving his army, he's growing his army, and in order to build Scorn armies, you need a bunch of corpses.
Interesting.
Which is not necessarily in the best interest of the Elixir.
Kill a lot of fallen.
So we will be
then they'd be falling
with Mithrax.
on the ground.
Speaking of Fickle, we see him right here as well.
Picked up from the ground, so they're not falling no more. They scorn.
So
Fickrell's gotten a bit of a glow up.
Holy flip!
This whole episode is
I've seen this before, but it looks really nice.
That shows it right there. That accurately depicts the tone of the season.
I just hope that the tone actually mimics in the gameplay, though. Like, that's the big problem.
You're right. Metal is
Show me
so
that
much
I have
faith.
faith.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
But the Elixni, of course, want to prevent this, and so we'll be teaming up with Mithrax, the King of House Light, and his daughter, Ido, the adorable Ido.
Must be protected at all costs.
Absolutely.
Thoroughly, yeah.
And she will be bringing her expertise in herbology and ancient Elixni lore to help us craft tonics.
We're cooking.
To imbue us with the
Breaking
power
Bad,
that we need
Destiny
to battle
2.
this evolving Scorn army.
Interesting. That
Anytime that Mithrax and Ido are in the story,
as well, so thank you very much.
You already got my attention. It doesn't matter
I think we should go
after
ahead
that.
and dive into a little bit of gameplay. Starting over here with you, Clayton. So we just heard a little bit about some new tonics and everything.
If only Varix also had like any sort of role.
This is the new apothecary, I believe.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
And Jerome was just mentioning
look at all those materials, though.
potions that we'll be crafting. They come in 2 flavors. They come in combat flavors, and they come in reward flavors.
Okay.
The combat flavors are going to enhance, or rather
Exotic
boost
ones?
your artifact perks, specific ones.
Yeah.
Higher rarities of these tonics will boost multiple artifact perks, which is really great.
Okay.
Boost
And
stasis
then
damage?
on the reward side, we wanted to create a new or novel way to chase your gear and your weapons that you love.
Yeah.
And we took a lot of inspiration from the success of Into the Light, where players got to attune to specific weapons. And so with your reward tonics, you'll be able to attune to specific weapons within the season.
Oh, I see now. It boosts your artifact stuff.
No, but you will be able to target them, and they'll have enhanced.
What about those exotic ones?
Got it. Okay. So you'll be able to go ahead and chase down that god roll
can
you're
you
looking
move
so
the mouse
desperately
down,
for.
the cursor
with the help of this. But also,
the
you have the build
exotic?
crafters out there. They're going to have even more to dive into than maybe just the episode.
I see the weapon icons on the, so that's like for loot. I'm gonna guess that the exotic one is like exotic drops.
Okay.
But
so build crafters, make sure your appetites are whetted and ready. There's going to be plenty of stuff for you to go ahead and dive into. But we're going to go ahead also and dive into some of the meat and potatoes of today's stream, proverbially speaking. As we're on our way over to Onslaught, Clayton, I just want to go ahead and also start there. Onslaught's getting kind of a new revamp this episode as well. You guys have left proverbially very few, if any, stones untouched this time around.
Oh my God! Thank goodness.
So, we heard players' feedback. They wanted to see us invest in Onslaught. We are coming out with a brand new Onslaught called Onslaught Salvation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
3 maps that you'll be in there. You will have some new defenses.
Obviously, not brand new because they're reusing areas, but that's fine.
We'll have the Scorn. We'll have the Dark Cabal.
Ew,
a bunch of other new stuff that we can get into.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll be diving into that
But
here
a
briefly.
new
You can see our
mode,
fire
too?
team is now on their way.
Are we seeing that today?
While we're on the way over as well, I heard a brief mention of our friends in the Shadow Legion as well. Can you tell us what the Shadow Legion is doing here and why they might be in league with Fickrell?
Oh, great.
The Shadow Legion are bumming. They are in utter disarray.
I was going to say.
Their leader has been slain, and they are grasping to anyone who can keep them in.
What do we do now?
And Fickrell
I don't know.
holds the most powerful artifact around now.
Got it.
So they will be doing his bidding, though it will be a tenuous alliance.
They're going with Fickrell's Riz just for right now, but that may not be the case later on.
That's right. We will do our best to stomp that out.
Thank you. All right, fair enough.
Excuse me, Fickrell's what now? I don't think Fickrell has the Riz. Quite very much not that at all. There's nothing going on over there. Just wanted to make that clear. Anyways, continue.
Much appreciated. All right, so now we are here. We're in Onslaught, and we're on Widow's Court.
I'm sorry, I apologize. But okay, so they are showing Onslaught already right away. First of all, new grenade launcher. That's awesome. But Widow's Court.
Yeah. So PvP players will recognize this map, and they'll also recognize some of the changes that we've done to accommodate for the slaying.
What is this grenade launcher?
Slaying that is necessary for an onslaught activity.
Yeah, a quick refresher for the folks at home that may not have dove into Onslaught recently or since Into the Light. There is the 10 level mode and the 50 level mode, isn't that correct?
Right. So Onslaught Salvation will also become.
Hold on, I got it. Is that primary ammo? What?
Coming with the 3 modes that they've had in the past, which is the playlist 10 wave mode, the normal 50 wave mode, and then we'll have our expert 50 wave mode.
Oh my gosh, new defenses.
One of the new things is that it will not be powered fixed like it was prior in Into the Light.
Oh, right.
Wait,
power
what?
enabled, so your armor and your weapons will matter even more.
Yeah.
It will be, at the start, more difficult, but you can, through getting better, more power and grinding that artifact level, you'll be able to kind of outweigh that difficulty. Yeah. And you'll also be able to, rely on some of the new
so that's why they did the 10 power
we were
levels.
just looking at a turret that maybe Guardians haven't seen since their days on the moon in D1. Can you tell us, what's going on? We got some new defenses, obviously.
We have some new defenses. So Ashley Baker is one of the tech designers we have. She's on the fire team right now, and she has helped us build these defenses, as well as other things in Onslaught. She's worked with the Sandbox team, who knocked it out of the park with this radical turret.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a standard radical turret at first, but by upgrade 3, it's going to have more health, it's going to be dealing more damage, but it's also going to have scorching rounds come out of it.
Okay.
And what the cool thing about that is that if you have build crafting with fragments or what have you within scorching, that will play off that if you're the rider.
Very nice. Okay. Yeah. So you can go ahead and really scorch everyone.
Everyone. Clumps of enemies, those annoying demolitionists that come in front of the ADU and scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, they do. That was my words. Okay, they do scare that.
Yeah.
All right. So in the subject or in the topic of new defenses, so we're bringing back the turret from yesterdecade of Destiny, but also there's some other ones available as well. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some new defenses that are on the way?
Yes. So the other one that we have is the airstrike, which will have 3 cannons when you purchase it, or upgrade it. They'll be replenished there. And what that allows you to do is essentially mark anywhere on the ground. Yeah. And when an enemy or enemies run over it, a giant beam, it will come down from the sky and obliterate your enemies. I'm going to keep a little bit of the secret for higher upgrades. I want to.
No, that's fair.
I can't wait to see what these look like at the highest upgrade.
And actually, so just to double check as well, with the airstrikes, it's not just you plant it and it fires. It actually has to wait for someone to kind of trigger that.
Waits for someone to come over. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Much like the tripwire, which we are also updating. For Onslaught Salvation. We've heard the feedback about the tripwires, and we want to bring their value up a little bit more. So now they're going to be exploding with stasis slow fields, and on higher upgrades, they'll be creating stasis crystals for you to play off if you have a stasis build, stasis weapon.
Tripwire,
and then I'm happy to share that those updates will also be available in the original Onslaught.
There's actually a reason for them.
Okay. So all the updates that are happening to
they're always like the last thing that I upgrade.
Onslaught Salvation will be available in the traditional Onslaught mode as well.
Just the tripwires,
Oh my god,
okay. Nice, good to see.
Dom, get the hammer!
On the topic of stasis and obviously looking at our tools for destruction, Chris, I'd be remiss if I didn't try and bring up the new grenade launcher that our fire team here is getting a lot of use out of.
Stasis
there's obviously
primary
a decent chunk of new weapons arriving with Revenant, but let's start here. This is the new seasonal, or pardon me, episodic exotic.
They almost said season.
Exotic.
Yeah.
It's the 11 state.
Get called out on yourselves. Oh no, they're episodes. They're different than seasons. They're episodes now.
This is primary ammo grenade launcher.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we've only had one primary ammo grenade launcher before, which is Fighting Lion.
Which
is getting buffed this season as well. Actually, it'll
that's right.
We got
make enemies volatile when it hits them. So like some serious build crafting there, particularly.
What? Did they just say they're buffing? They're buffing Fighting Lion? What?
Anyway,
with the volatile thing?
So this is a bit different in that it's also a projectiles travel in a straight line. So like mountaintop.
Good job, you did me.
Hits pretty hard. But the exotic part of it is that as
that you could take yourself out.
You will gather these remnants, which will fill up the exotic bar, which you can see in the hardware people aren't dead.
Yeah. It's the shade.
Yes.
Oh, they're an expert.
No, that's true. Yeah, we should note for the Guardians at home, this is an expert mode, so there
goes the ball. Can you buff the tracking on the throwing of the ball? Like, they definitely nerfed it.
Will launch a special ammo brick for you and your allies to pick up.
Excuse me,
Very
what?
nice.
And when you reach 100, you can special reload and launch heavy ammo. So this lets you really go in on a new type of support role, which is like ammo support, which we haven't really seen in the game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think on my side, I really just spent a lot of time getting like the Seeker and Finder mods on my helmet, but it seems like a nice additional way to go ahead and make sure that you're really
I don't know if they're going to talk about Icebreaker in this one, but it's like kind of funny where it's like, oh, infinite ammo with a gun that just gives you ammo for other weapons.
The fire team go all in on ammo generation.
That's actually really nice. Oh my god, darn screams.
Also, so Clayton, when it comes to the other stuff that's arriving with Onslaught Salvation, are there any new things we're looking forward to? I know that we're obviously fighting the evolved Scorn, but are there any new bosses or anything people can look forward to?
It's obviously like not like
Fickrel
the
Scorn are also
full,
going to be coming out with
bricks. It's the ones that you get from the tracking on the helmet. So
scary, and you'll see it on wave 6 here in a second when the players are instructed to go into like a Revenant nest and go and save the Elixir from being captured.
Yeah.
These Revenant Barons, they stalk the area, and when you kill them, they will create a Revenant totem which flies in a random direction, leaving a trail so you can kind of like stalk it, find it. You have to kill it before it would respawn the Revenant Baron.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's some hide and seek gameplay there. And we also have for the rewards side, starting on wave 30, set 3, players will have a small chance to get a fully masterwork double perked episodic weapon.
Thank you! Oh my gosh. I've been saying this, that like what's the point of grinding like past like certain points of like seasonal weapons, because once you get the red borders, who cares? Like literally whatever. So I've always said that it would be nice if they would start giving you like more perks. They should do triple, to be honest, like once you get to like the final rounds of Onslaught. But anyways, I'm pausing again.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and on Expert, like we're playing, if you remember, the bonus chest on harder difficulties will show up. So if you're playing on Expert, you have 2 chances.
Okay, all right. So really make sure you're pushing through those final levels. Try and hit that ceiling of level 50 so you can really facilitate the loot grind as much as you can.
100%.
Nice.
Something we mentioned recently in one of our Dev Insight logs as well are Banes, which are going to be making an appearance here in Onslaught. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so we'll be, with the Expert mode only, we'll be having Banes throughout the activity, and we'll also be adding mods. So it's really nice to have them show up because they add another layer
the moist Scorn Cave
into Expert.
I don't know why I said that. I regret it already.
One where like you got shot on you, or if you have to break line of sight, but it adds a fun variability within the gameplay. So every wave feels different.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
so they are
I just wanted to point out
updating.
here. You'll notice 2 things. First off, the fire team is tracking that Revenant Baron, just like you said.
Yeah.
And also freeing captured Elixir. And as to why people want to keep Elixir captives alive, I'll save that for the players to discover.
Why do you want to keep them alive? So then they don't become Scorn. I mean, I'm going to guess that's probably why that they're capturing. Like, hey, listen, this makes a lot more sense on why they're capturing the Elixir in this episode. Like, already it's like, oh, yeah, to make more. They don't want to make more Scorn for their army. Meanwhile, in Season of Defiance, when we were rescuing humans, that still didn't lead to any reason other than they were like, we're the bad guys. We're going to steal the civilians. Haha, they don't do anything. They squishy and stuff, but we're going to steal them. We're evil. Like, it really didn't lead it. Like, I mean, if they did something really messed up, like Rise of Iron and story stuff with the Frankenstein thing, remember that? That was really messed up. Imagine if they did that again. But that never led into anything. But this one, it makes more sense.
Prominently in the season.
Right,
because he is inadvertently, of course, responsible for creating Fickrel, and so it's his responsibility as the new Hunter Vanguard to
Crow's going to get involved.
rectify his old problem.
Interesting. Even though he can't be like, hey, man, that was Ultron. That wasn't me. He's going to step up and take responsibility for that.
Absolutely.
Don't worry, at the end, it's going to be like,
out there.
we friends with Fickrel. Best friends.
We're going to be hanging out with Crow.
And then our Guardian
with Mithrax, obviously
snipes
the main kind of part of the story.
Fickrel with the icebreaker.
We're going to be hanging out with the most, you'd say?
We were friends
there will be some other Elixir, some venerable old school Elixir that poke their heads in that you'll see some drama with. I won't say any more than that.
Fair.
But it will be in everyone's interest to see Fickrel go down here.
Okay, got it. A little bit of enemy, my enemy. In this case, they're all our enemy.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Actually, really quickly, Clayton, I know we kind of touched on
really
several
liking
different subjects
how
here between
they
the different defenses, different
midtowned
enemies, different
this
structural
map.
opportunities. That
I've always said it would be
Onslaught
interesting to have the PvE variation of
down with
these,
the team and sort of
like
looking
Midtown
at this new
in this
refresh
one,
on this activity.
like
did you guys take
for
any big challenges
PvP?
for yourself? Where like we want to.
They got rid of that cover in the church right there.
We just wanted to build and evolve and just do more.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
It's a metal episode. We want to do Onslaught. Let's metal it up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I
things like
love
the
Onslaught
turret,
so
things like
much.
the Revenant Baron. We really want to play into the themes of this.
Like I've said this, that Onslaught should evolve.
Episode.
The big problem that I have with Destiny
and
to this
you're seeing
day
that in the roll dart, you're seeing that in the different defenses and the
it's just that like they ignore core playlist stuff,
one thing I forgot
and that's
to
like the
mention,
big
too, is,
thing
we
that
are
you do
updating
when you're
the mock
bored of
yards
the regular
from the original
stuff.
Onslaught.
Oh, really?
We've heard feedback from there. If it's taking a little bit longer, we want to bring that. Our goal is to bring that in line with the rest of the maps of the original Onslaught. So we're making some updates there to get that to go.
Very exciting. The reason is obviously to dive into all versions of Onslaught as we go ahead. Yep.
So what did they say?
Goal is to bring that in line. Onslaught.
Oh, really?
We've heard feedback from there. We're updating the moth yards. From the original Onslaught.
Oh, really?
We've heard feedback from there. If it's taking a little bit longer, we want to bring that. Our goal is to bring that in line with the rest of the maps of the original Onslaught. So we're making some updates there to get that to go.
Very exciting.
This is they're not even like showing like the story or the battlegrounds. I don't even know if they're gonna have a battlegrounds. They might just be doing Onslaught, but which probably is what they're actually doing. But which is fine because I like Onslaught. The mode is just already good. Basically, their battlegrounds are just the same gimmick kind of thing. Like so, Onslaught
dive into all
is taking what battlegrounds should have been.
Actually, and while we're here, out here, slaying out as best as we can against this new undead army,
I kind of understood why it was like
obviously a
not
slew of new
as like
episodic
fast
weapons arriving this time.
Yeah,
but
I know we've got.
It's nice that they're like, oh, you know what, we're gonna make it go by faster. Probably like fix the spawns of enemies and stuff.
Most excited, rather, I should say, in bringing back.
Yeah, there are a few weapons that I'm going to personally be chasing
look at
rolls
that
on.
heavy ammo.
I'm particularly fond of the new double fire stasis grenade launcher.
Yes.
The third double fire in the game, and the other two are energy slot.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to run this in your kinetic slot. It's got the new perk Envious Arsenal, which is like directly targeted at damage rotations. So whenever you do damage with the other two weapons, the weapon reloads.
Yeah.
So you can just cycle between your weapons, get it back. And it also has chill clip, which on a double fire is particularly cool.
That's what I say.
Oh, chill clip on a double fire.
There's also some cool synergies with the new perks on some of the other weapons. So the hand cannon can run the new perk Rhyme Stealer, which every time you shatter a stasis crystal or a frozen enemy will grant you frost armor.
Yeah.
Which is the new verb we introduced recently.
Right.
And that can also roll with Headstone, which will generate stasis crystals.
Yeah.
So you've got this like self-contained loop there.
Yeah.
Submachine gun is an arc precision, and that's got
Full shot.
the new perk. Shoot, what is the name of that?
I don't know. You're supposed to tell us.
Yeah.
Anyway, it ties back into Jolt, right? Like the Vault Shot is great, but it requires a reload on your weapon after a kill.
Yeah.
This one's triggered on sustained damage, so you will jolt the target, and then the perk I'm going for in the other column is Loose Change, which every time you apply a debuff gives you a reload speed buff. So you'll be constantly having that loop cycle.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
So we're going to look at the new artifact here in a little bit once we go ahead and move through this final wave of what's in front of us right now. But there's also, it's been featured a little bit in some art about Destiny's 10th anniversary, an exotic of yesteryear, we'd say, for all the Guardians who have been sticking around for a while.
So they are going to talk about it.
Icebreaker is returning.
Yeah.
All right, what did you do to
Icebreaker
it?
is coming back. It's something that we've been holding off on doing just because the ammo economy issues that are introduced in Destiny 1 are pretty dire.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we've got a version here which we think lets you get back into that fantasy of just like always having uptime on the weapon without letting you just hang back and like plink away at enemies from range, which we never like. So the way it works is
so what does they do?
And final blows with other weapons will just generate ammo for Icebreaker.
Got it.
It's
Okay.
got like a 10-round magazine, which is also the same size as reserves.
Yeah.
So the play is that in between boss damage phases or something, you and your team slay out, and as long as you're getting assists or kills, you'll come back in fully loaded.
Got it. Yeah.
And in Destiny 1, there wasn't actually any ice to break, right? So this time we actually have a bunch of ice that we can break. I won't go into details, we've got limited time.
Fair enough. Okay.
Ties deeply into
this stasis episode will certainly be giving people a lot of reasons to to break the proverbial ice by the sounds of it. No,
Stasis is back for this episode.
Now, while we're still here, let's go ahead and check out the new artifact that's going to be arriving.
Oh my gosh.
We love getting a chance to show all of you folks this.
Hold on, let me pause. I'm sorry. So, number one, I was completely wrong. I thought that they were not going to go, like, any route of, like, infinite ammo with Icebreaker. Granted, though, I will say this. If that's all Icebreaker has to offer, like, if it's just ammo, then it's like, whoop-de-doo. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, if they're... But, like, yeah, if they have... I think they probably mentioned it. I didn't listen because I'm too busy talking over everything. But, if they... have like a unique like reason for like damage use of the Icebreaker, then great. I'm gonna guess that maybe like the Catalyst will do some stuff, whatever, or who knows. Well, maybe it'll just be really good of a sniper and DPS in general in itself, but it all depends on how much ammo you get back from taking out enemies and stuff. I'm curious about PvP though, like what that's gonna do, but yeah, I guess they are going the Icebreaker route in a way of infinite ammo, just in a different way.
You can go ahead and start your build crafting. But Chris, you know, I know obviously last time around, if I had to kind of paint it with a meta, I'd say rather it'd be very focused on sniper rifles, solar. If there was a similar theme for this particular artifact, what would it be?
Grenade launchers. Very hard into stasis.
Yeah,
like, touches all of the stasis verbs. If you want to make a stasis build, you can amplify it in a bunch of ways.
Oh my gosh! Yep, it's stasis episode time.
Adding a bunch of grenade launcher perks. So we've got overload grenade launchers, which is great. Like tagging those like super deadly overload champions.
Yeah.
Also bringing back a variant of like everyone's favorite grenade launcher artifact perk, Breach and Clear.
Oh, yes.
So you can weaken enemies. And then when you boost it, you can get the second part of that old perk. We were saying earlier, you can boost artifact perks with the potion system.
That's right, yeah.
Nice.
I also will admit I'm very selfishly excited to see Anti-Barrier Scout Rifle back. It's been so long.
Anti-Barrier.
I've missed it.
Barrier Scout is great.
I'm going to pretend like that's just for me, for my own benefit today.
We're trying something a bit different with this artifact as well, in that, so the first column is all anti-champion mods, and the final column is all of the pinnacle ones, like the capstones for your artifact build.
Right, yeah.
But columns 2, 3, and 4 are roughly equivalent in power, which will let you mix and match them more freely instead of feeling like you have to like go for the top tier ones. They're all usable in build.
It's less of a linear escalation and more of just a mix and match in a lot of ways. Very exciting. Okay, so there'll be plenty of opportunities for players to go ahead and amplify their builds, go ahead and really lean into one play style. If again you're like
these are looking nice.
This feels like a remarkably great season to be doing that, especially with
I'm seeing some void there too. So,
but I believe that actually wraps us up for this particular segment of Onslaught. But there's also a couple more things that I wanted to go ahead and tease for the arrival of Act 1. For starters, an old favorite strike is going to be making its return. The inverted spire is returning.
I knew it.
But Clayton, it's not coming back exactly as people remember it, is it?
Well, yeah, I would hope so. It's been gone for a while. Please tell me you didn't ruin it.
Yeah.
We added another wheelbarrow that you have to push and stand in it, and then there you go. That's what we did.
And you'll see more Vex than what you're used to.
True. I can confirm. My compatriot on the social media team, Mitch, showed me through it a little bit. The only thing I'll spoil is if you like death lasers, you're going to have a great time.
Oh, great.
And then in addition to that, there's one more thing we wanted to add in. Arriving with Act 2,
Grandmasters
of Revenant,
be
and I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right. Inspired from a fan favorite activity from Destiny's past.
What?
We're going to go ahead and bring back an activity, but we're not going to tell you anything outside of that.
A fan favorite activity. Scorn, Fallen stuff, Vampire. Okay. SRL's coming back. Confirmed. There we go. Got it. We finally did it. We won. I'm going to guarantee it's not that. There's no way they would do that. So what I'm thinking is, and I hope I'm right. Prison of Elders, that would fit the theme. I would love that. That was kind of like a mini Onslaught in a sense. So if they were to do that, it'd be the same as Onslaught. So I don't know if they will do that, but it'd be crazy if they did, and it would be nice. It'd be cool to have that mode return.
So chat, speculate, let us know what you think. Go ahead and shout us out on Twitter or wherever it is you like to hang out online. But with that, I think we're going ready to get ready, pardon me, for the next segment. But in the meantime, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and share a little bit of what's arriving with Revenant. We appreciate your time so much today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for
having us. I know that there's also
like... It takes a lot to make me look good, so thank you guys for stepping up here and helping out. I appreciate it.
Like D2 favorites, like Menagerie and stuff, but I don't know. What am I looking at?
Called in my notes the cool stuff segment, and I think it lives up to that.
Cool,
so we'll go ahead and show you a little bit more of what's to be arriving with Revenant, including
is that a Trials
what you're seeing here on your screen right now. This is the second earnable skimmer that's going to be arriving in Destiny 2.
Earnable.
The aptly named, we'll wait for it to highlight, the Zerfboard. I was so glad that was the name that stuck. As you can
whoever named this needs a raise. Are you kidding?
See, it features some very unique 9 styling,
and it looks like it changes with shaders. I can make it green.
Are very arted up. The top's obviously a little bit more visible here, but if you do a sweet front flip or back flip, if you're capable of it, you can go ahead and see all sides of it. Notably, this is going to be earnable. So if you go ahead and start saving up those strange coins now, it's going to cost you 97 of them. So if you're like me,
we'll get that easy peasy.
Spending all those extra strange coins at Xur to go ahead and get more rolls on your exotic class item, maybe save up for a week or two. Also, because I work here, I've started saving up already, spoiler alert. But the Zerfboard will be available with the arrival of Revenant. So make sure and go ahead and grab the first earnable skimmer since the Guardian Games. In addition to that, we obviously have mentioned very recently that we're going to be having a new dungeon arriving with Revenant, and as a part of this, we're going to
the Scorn Hole. There was supposed to be suspense there, but I don't remember where. Here we go. Yes, the Scorn Hole. That was cringe. Anyways, Eris Moan, help me. Thank you. That's enough for today. Carry on.
Going to be doing a dungeon race in cooperation with our friends over at Twitch Rivals. We've put the sign-up link out there. It's available on our social media channels or in the TWID, or if you prefer.
This is actually really exciting. I can't wait to see how this turns out, but I also am excited to see what this dungeon has to offer.
Fire team and make sure that you're ready to go ahead and take on this new challenge, which will again also provide some additional chances for Bungie rewards. You can see here on the screen, we've got a look at the hoodie that will be earnable along with the bracelet.
$500, please.
But perhaps what's most interesting about the hoodie is that as a part of the dungeon race, if you're one of the top 3 teams to go ahead and cross that proverbial finish line, then we'll be able to ship out a special embroidered version with your gamer tag on it as well. So make sure and go ahead and dive on in and prepare to try and cross that finish line first. And now we're also going to take one quick look. Festival of the Lost is going to be arriving with Act 1 of Revenant as well. And if you all remember, you took a chance to vote on some armor sets for yourselves.
Oh, I can't wait.
Up first, you can see here we've got the Evil Wizard set. I myself.
Listen, this is going to be amazing. Wallet will be fine with me buying this. Wallet's excited.
I'm very looking forward to adding this to my collection. The Evil Gothic set is just going to only dial up more and more. Up next, our friendly neighborhood Warlocks. You've got this to look forward to, including what I think we affectionately refer to as
I just hope that in-game it looks amazing, because all these concept arts look so good, but then they go in-game and it doesn't really have that same vibe.
You're going to be have the chance to add this into your arsenal as well.
I have to say this. Please tell me everything changes with shaders, including like the book or whatever, but I guarantee they won't. They never learn this. And I know that there's somebody in the comments like, actually, I really like it when they don't change with shaders, because then you could be very creative with what you do with it. It's like you can be creative with changing your shaders. Like, you literally can individually change each piece of your armor. So, no, if anything, it limits ideas to what you're doing. So don't at me.
Make sure that you're prepared to go ahead and dive on into Festival of the Lost and grab this stuff once it's available. And I'm going to be we
added one lost sector to the festival.
And update your fashion where you can. But now we get to move on to our second segment of the show, where we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about what's further on down the road. So we've talked about what's just around the corner. Let's look forward to Frontiers. And here to help me discuss those topics today, that topic today as well, rather, are these two fine individuals.
So I guess that basically confirms that like Act 1 is just going to be Onslaught, And then Act 2 is going to be some fan favorite mode. I'm just guessing it could be Prison of the Elders. So no battle strikes. I kind of enjoyed those a little bit. Granted, we're getting Inverted Spire back. So whatever, I don't know.
We'll make sure and introduce them to everyone out there in the crowd. We'll start with you first, Allison. Allison, how's it going?
It's going so good. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
We're up so early. I'm doing well, thank you so much.
Good.
Allison, obviously narrative director here on Destiny at Bungie. Can you tell anyone who may not have seen you in a Vidoc or one of our past streams a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm the narrative director for D2. It is me and my team's job to tell stories. It's our job to take care of our characters, of our arcs. We make you laugh, we make you cry, we make you have feelings that you normally don't.
You make me as the Guardian really like bad at being a Guardian, where I just stand there in cutscenes and not actually throw my super out at Maya Sundaresh.
We also get to plan future things.
But for real though, why our Guardian doesn't do anything?
Yes.
And the saga
talking about. I know the whole new saga. We'll have a little bit to dive into as well today. I know, I'm so excited.
But I am looking forward to seeing what they're doing with Frontiers. The whole
I've not had a chance to
story
interview
stuff
since back in my
changes.
Mixer days. But if you've tuned into these Bungie streams in the past, you've seen them as well. Robbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great,
Andy.
You know, I think you've grown a lot since those days.
Thank you. It's been so long, right? Yeah. My badge changed and everything. For the folks that may not know you or may not know what a game director does, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so one of the main things I do as assistant game director for Destiny 2 is I work on the creative direction and vision for where we're going with Destiny coming up in the future with Codename Frontiers. So I get to work with our game director, Tyson Green, and Allison Lurs, our narrative director, and a bunch of our other creative leaders on how we shape the future of Destiny to come.
Very exciting, which we are going to be diving into now. I know we've obviously released some blogs about the Codename Frontiers stuff already. If you've been out on Bungie.net reading the Dev Insight blogs, there's been a good amount to dive into.
I'm allergic to the future
over on the community
info
team as well have been helping us kind of, read more into what the audience feedback has been and what the players are saying. And so we've had obviously some topics come up that I think we should just go ahead and dive on into.
Let's party.
Absolutely. Okay, that's the right attitude. Let's party at this early in the morning. Always the answer I want to hear. So, Robbie, we'll go ahead and start with you. One of the things we said is that these expansions are going to be medium-sized. Can you help us understand a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, definitely. So, expansions are changing going forward with Codename Frontiers. And so, our philosophy behind this is moving from one really big, all-consuming tentpole moment that kind of takes all the oxygen in the room at one point in the year to two what we consider big tentpole moments happening in each year. And so those tentpole moments coming twice a year now are going to bring with them fresh content and new stories that are going to move the world of Destiny forward. And to answer your question directly, the way we're kind of looking at the size of these is similar to like Rise of Iron from Destiny 1. But this is happening like twice a year as compared to the past.
Yeah.
And so what's kind of the reason we're talking about this, the rough shape of the box
could be good
here, that we're filling is that
Not
what comes
saying
with
it
it
is.
is like each expansion is going to have its own unique version of a campaign and post-game experience that you can dive really deep into beyond the initial playthrough, similar to how things like the Dreaming City or the Pale Heart from the Final Shape had worked, where those beyond those initial campaign experiences, there's like
at least they're doubling down on that
to uncover. And
so I didn't like that about the Pale Heart.
Unique
and the Dreaming City, of course,
is a big goal for us, in large part to support all the new gear and the new tiering of gear that we're putting into the game, right? And so it's one about each of these expansions, again, they're going to tell a really compelling story as part of our next saga. But I really want to stress that they're also going to be unique experiences, unique campaigns and post games.
Yeah, I know that's something like, I've kind of overheard some of the conversations where when it comes to these expansions as well, obviously the corollary we're using today is Rise of Iron, but like these are going to be brand new experiences, things that we just haven't released before in the past.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that as well? Or
yeah, definitely. And so for Codename Apollo specifically, the first expansion coming up with Frontiers, you're going to journey to a Metroidvania-inspired destination. Right?
I hope that's
our
true.
guiding light for how we're creating this new location. And so this new destination is going to feature a nonlinear campaign that puts you, in the driver's seat of exploring its world and its story. So this is very different from the past, where you're kind of following a very linear mission structure or line that's very simple in many ways. And Allison actually recently talked a bunch about this in a blog post.
Yeah. So when we made the decision to lean into that Metroidvania structure, we knew that the narrative structure had to match, like had to complement that structure as well. And so the way that we're going to treat nonlinearity in Codename Apollo is when you arrive at our destination, which is a new destination, you'll be able to decide if you want to go to region D or region C, or maybe you want to go check out B, because that's going to be where you get the ability that allows you to access region A, so you can talk to that character that you really like. We really want that sense of the player being in the driver's seat, of being able to decide where and how they want to explore and discover the secrets that we have in the world. And whichever of those different choices that you make doesn't negate the others. We want you to explore every crevice inside of the experience.
I hope that it plays
and
out
to help support
better
that,
than what I'm
structured our story
assuming.
in a complementary way. So we'll have the normal kinds of like activity dialogue that you normally experience in a campaign, but there's also between 25 and 30 different threads of stories that you can discover and chain together after you complete an activity. There's so much richness to discover that we're creating.
You see that little thread of that shining rock somewhere, you can really just afford to pull on it and just dive in by the sound
Absolutely, that's what we want you to do.
Okay, that's awesome. So actually, let's go ahead and stay on the topic of story here for just a second as well. I think that there's been some conversations about the future of narrative Destiny, which
I'm going to pause. Just so what I was saying, like, hopefully it's not what I'm assuming. What I mean by that is that it's not just like think of it as like Forsaken with the adventures, where it's like you can go after this baron first, or this baron, or that baron. Like there's not like an order. Like there basically still is a set ending in a way, or whatever. Or in this case is with Forsaken. But it's just like, oh, you just get to choose where you start. Like that's not impactful. Like it's just like there's literally no point to that other than just spicy words. That's why and I'll give my like full thoughts at the end of this. But I just wanted to like say that's what I mean. Like, oh, I hope I'm not, assuming that, but I hope that it actually genuinely makes like some changes on how storytelling is with the deciding where you go and whatever.
Which has obviously been so central to the experience, so core to our characters and our stories. There's been some concern that maybe the new structure might not afford the opportunity for as much story in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are planning and what that means?
That would be news to me if it suddenly vanished. I like what I do. Please don't let
that would be really concerning, especially if
Destiny. Like what makes Destiny Destiny
like,
is that beating heart of story at its core. That's not going anywhere. The thing that this new structure allows us comes in two parts for story. Like part one is pacing. With these 2 tentpole beats a year, the feeling that the world is changing and growing and moving is going to come much quicker now, which means that we can move the plot along at a much quicker pace than we used to. Part 2 is focus. Because these are much more focused releases, we don't have to worry about padding the sides with a bunch of extra stuff to kind of fill in the space. Like, nope, we are zeroing in on exactly what each of these releases is trying to communicate. And so that means we're going to tell a more focused story and with pacing that keeps up with what fans want.
I mean, it's also too, it's interesting because obviously the narrative is one big part. The story.
Again, I want to trust all this stuff. I do. They said also episodes were going to be different from seasons. We've seen how that turned out. But again, I want this to be good. Because it has to. If they're just completely just going away from the whole big expansion thing, which is what was like the big thing to look forward to every year, I hope these things turn out the way that it should. But it's just like when they start saying like, oh, this is spicy words. Like Bungie does that, but it's just prove to me.
Story you're telling, the words on the page. But another part of it, given that we have the unique opportunity with a medium like video games, is how players interact with it. We've seen some comments online and some notable conversations about, go talk to Vendor X, head over to the holodeck and say hello to this other person, go back to Vendor X and shake their hand one more time. Can you tell us a little bit about that structure, what you guys are planning on?
That it sucks?
It drives us bonkers too.
Oh, thank goodness.
No, we believe that everything should be questioned, right? Like we should be questioning that structure and we should be reinvestigating it. And starting with Revenant, and especially when we get to Apollo, we're going to be deliberately shaking it up. By the time we get to Apollo, that loop, that pattern is more or less gone. We're shaking things up a
more
lot.
or less gone.
I mean,
we just lessened the toilet bowl hologram by like 10%. This is what I'm saying. Like if they, when this expansion, 2-part expansion thing comes out, and we're still like just listening to holograms constantly and going back and forth, but it's just like, no, once again, you're just manipulating us to think that, buy this spicy words. Like that's what I don't like anymore, and I hope that this
like these are
this changes. This is why I want to be hopeful, because if this is true, what they're saying this time,
it's not you going to the same
this
location
could be good.
Where you expect to see someone
Very
delivering
good.
a piece of information to you between,
even though they're not
specific
giant
missions. It is
expansions.
like you exploring the world, finding these
you don't
people,
really
pulling on all
need
these
everything to be
threads in order to discover
huge to be
things
like
within this weird and wonderful
good.
Exactly. The feedback is loud and clear. We want
Just
to
put more
keep
quality
the player
into it.
out in the world, out and exploring, and get information to them for a change.
Yeah.
So, we're listening.
And also, I mean, I will say, Allison, you didn't arrive empty-handed. You've got some cool concept art to share with us as
I
well.
got some goodies.
Okay.
Ooh,
thank
I
you.
got some birthday presents. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
More
Birthday to
concept
everyone who's
art?
born on
Looking at
October 1st.
concept art is always a joy.
Exactly.
It's a good way to go about it.
He's gonna
It's
show
better
the
than
patrol
wrapping paper
zone?
covering a PlayStation. I
It's
don't know.
true. It's true.
Let's go ahead and take a look. So this is we've got up on screen kind of one of our first pieces of concept art from the future.
What is going on in the ceiling?
Can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here?
No, I can't.
Oh, of course you
On
can't.
purpose. What I can tell you is that this is some concept art of our new destination, which, like I said, is a new place that we haven't been to before, which means that these people that you're seeing are people that we haven't met yet. We're going to learn a lot more about them, and I love this piece because the longer that you look at it, same with some of the other art that we've shared so far, the more you start to see things that are kind of familiar all the way out at this new location.
Okay, you got my
lots of fun things
attention.
to discover.
What's the symbol on that banner? Is
Not
this a
just on,
seance
like,
or a wedding
the-
ceremony? Who knows,
I know,
right?
and I'm
Like
not telling.
area,
Only a
but
single
like
soul.
Nope.
new
Okay, all right.
people.
Plenty to dive into, including we've got another piece of concept art is here as well.
Something we talk about a lot, and like I think the last concept really like spoke to it is like especially when we're developing a new destination like this, like we really think about like what is a storied history that's happened here. What's something that players can like really sink their teeth into and dig deep into. And going into this concept, something that I love about it that's really resonant with me with a lot of the early creative discussions we had on it is that we wanted this place to feel like an exotic world that is just tailor-built around the joy of discovery, right? And then so within
They always
this
do
new
a really
destination
good
in
job
Apollo,
on art
you're
direction.
going to be discovering powerful abilities in order to uncover secrets in this location and in order to carve a path to the great mystery at the heart of the planet. And that's what like these concepts, when I look at them in retrospective as the team is now actively like building a bunch of this stuff, it's very evocative for me from that feeling of like, hey, it's something Tyson and Alice and I talk a lot about is like, how can we get that like grand mystery in that game, that feeling that there's something right around the corner, that like it's kind of has been at the heart of Destiny for a long time. And as we've been closing down the Light Dark saga, it's been an amazing roller coaster ride, but we want to expand and grow Destiny and we want to change it. And that's what I think these concepts are starting to speak for us, trying to show not just us telling of like some of that direction.
I mean, it's exciting to see because I think one thing I've heard you guys talk about a lot as well is, just the inspirations that you want to obviously provide the players. You build these new worlds, but you guys have been diving into a lot of crazy subject matter just on your own to get inspired as well. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of some of the fun reading or listening you've been doing as you've been going through this?
Sure. One of the fun parts about being a creative is that you have to fill the tank with something.
Certainly.
So that means doing a lot of research, finding a lot of other targets in media, or even just like what music you're listening to while you're working on a script, right? I know for our team, something that really inspired us was music of the 1960s. We've listened to a lot of early prog, a lot of King Crimson, and a lot of the Doors and Jefferson Airplane.
Frontiers is going to have the vibes.
There's a lot of Slaughterhouse 5 inside of this.
Cheery.
We love to look for inspiration outside of just games because there's so much in the world that can fill that tank and get us inspired for what's coming next. And we also look to television, of course, too.
I mean, TV and movies is like we talk about all the line. I mean, Allison as the narrative director, much better at referencing text. I'm a little bit more of a visual guy.
Is that the nice way to say that? Okay, cool. All right,
social media and TikTok have brought all.
I hope this turns out well because, like I said, the concept sounds so nice.
Inspirational media, like one of the things Destiny also being a sci-fi game that we talked a bunch about was for Apollo was Scavenger's Reign. That's something that Allison, remember an early concept and we were talking about, and we're like, oh wow, that media, that TV show is so great because like it's familiar in some ways, but as you get closer and you really look at their world, it's really strange and different and weird and mysterious, and it really kind of just builds this
Frontiers
halo of allure around it that is something that really spoke to us when we're thinking about like how can we introduce something new to the game at the top of Frontiers.
That's exciting. All right, so there's obviously a lot of new inspirations. We had a chance to look at some concept art, but Allison, I got to put you on the spot just one last time. Do you have any other teasers for us or anything you can give us before we move on to the next subject?
I got a weird one.
Okay, even better.
A weird one.
So imagine going to a mansion, like a really nice, really big fancy house.
Okay. I was going to say a spooky mansion.
No,
Okay,
like a nice. So you're going in and looking at like a parlor room or something, and maybe the owner of the house tells you there's a secret door somewhere in here, and you're looking around and you can see the door that you came through and you can see the window, but it kind of looks like a dead end, like there's nothing in here. And everyone knows that a good secret door comes from like behind a bookcase.
Right.
Yes, where you glitch out of the map,
pull on a book or a little statue that's been in front of your face the whole time, but you just haven't had the focus on it yet. And if you pull on that, it opens up the secret door, and suddenly what was a dead end looks like an entryway.
Yeah.
And that's what this saga is.
Okay, that's very exciting. And it won't be like Young Frankenstein where I get stuck in the door. Right?
You will not get stuck in the door. No, I will not let anyone get stuck inside the door.
Or Matthew
McConaughey.
No back rooms? Oh, there's been a lot of back rooms.
Okay, all right. Thank you again, Allison, so much. There's obviously a lot of cool stuff to dive into, but we'll let you and yours keep crafting. But we've got also one more subject as well. Robbie, I'd love to bug you about one more thing, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So we've seen some feedback on reward tiers and how there might not be enough variation in loot for players to go ahead and get encouraged to go ahead and keep chasing down more gear.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're all building right now and kind of what that means to you?
Yeah, so this is like very valid feedback, just acknowledging that in the first place, because the first thing we announced was just like, hey, there's some new tiers, right? And then obviously, you're going to look at that and go like, well, I have a bunch of amazing armor and weapons now, so like, why does this matter in the future? And so,
why should I delete my stuff in my vault and actually
makes
clean
a lot
it
of
out?
sense to us. And so what's really top of mind and has been for us for a little while now is how we can make not only chasing gear within individual tiers interesting and the whole system interesting, but also how we can make those higher tiers of gear compelling to chase.
Sounds nice. I just hope that it doesn't make things obsolete.
Comes in two forms that I can talk a little bit about today.
Like
One I can go a little more
activities.
in depth on, which is our next generation armor.
It's like, what's
That's
the
gonna be
point of going
coming,
the lower
with
tier?
Codename Frontiers, and then we
armor.
have some really early thinking for weapons.
Okay.
And so for
Armor's getting an
let's start
update.
there. Is that okay, Andy?
That's perfect. If you wouldn't mind, Robbie.
Yeah, I would.
Okay,
happy
thank
to.
you.
So let me lean in here to focus a little bit. So for next generation armor, we really want to make armor valuable again. We want to make it easier to understand.
My poor
and
vault.
we really want it to have create new build crafting identities.
Yeah.
That's something that's like really
Oh,
close
yeah,
to
our
home
vault's
for
gonna
us
be
right now, 'cause
crying.
We've had a similar system for quite a while now.
Here we go.
And so part of making it valuable, easy to understand, new identities is one of the big pieces is going to be a large stat rework to the armor pieces themselves.
Oh,
And so
gosh.
there's going to be fewer stats on each individual piece of armor. So it makes it way easier to quickly compare pieces of gear and be like, oh, this one's better than that one. I'm building into a specific, discipline, strength, whatever.
Sure.
And you can better understand that. That also means that there's going to be fewer things we call dump stats.
Sure.
Like you looking at a piece of gear and going like, oh man, it only gives me +5 resilience. I don't really want that.
Trash it.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's still going to be cases where it's like, oh, it has a lot of resilience, but that's not what I'm building into. But it's just going to be way easier to just glance at stuff.
Very cool.
And figure it out. But beyond that, right? Like how can we answer that question of how can next gen armor have this new build crafting identity?
Yeah.
It also we want to bring new things to the table.
Yeah,
right?
imagine they allow
and so
sets.
part of the stat rework, we're going to go beyond 100, Andy.
We go beyond
Beyond
sometimes.
100?
Yeah. We've gone beyond light.
That's right.
Yep. Beyond dark. With prismatic.
What
This
else
just makes
is there?
sense. Yeah.
Now we're going to go beyond 100 with armor. Who knew? Who knew that's where we go?
That was just hidden in the lore book somewhere, I'm sure, right, Allison?
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Right? Okay. All right. Thank you.
No, we'll
No one double check that.
Yeah,
but beyond 100.
don't check our homework. Yeah. So when we go, so what I mean by going beyond 100. So let's talk about strength, for instance. And so this is some early thinking from the team.
Yeah.
So in the 1 to 100 range, it would still reduce your melee cooldown like it does today. It would still have that, so that would still be really easy to understand. But then from that 101 to 200 range, beyond 100, every point into strength at that point would then give you a chance in order to activate a second melee when power melee becomes charged. So basically, you get double melee. You get to double throw your shields, or double throw your knives, or throw whatever warlock space magic stuff they throw in. I don't play warlock.
I'm a hunter. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I can't jump. Sorry.
Withering blades. Yeah. Days. That's it. Yeah.
But really, like the key thing to there, right, is like that starts to create an identity for what you want to build craft into. That's very different than just like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm building in a melee, lower cooldown. That's cool. But now you can start build crafting into like, okay, I'm going to regularly, especially at the higher end, start to get double melee charges, right? And so the other thing we're considering right now is also renaming that stat from strength to melee, so that it's just very specific when you look at the gear and kind of like know what it's
cut right to that chase, right?
Yeah. Another big thing that's coming with next generation armor to the game is set bonuses, and so this is something I know, right?
Okay, our vault's gonna be screaming now.
Versions of it in the past have been like individual releases, but we're looking at this as like a holistic new system that's coming with pretty much every piece of new legendary armor set that we create, starting with Frontiers.
Okay.
And so these set bonuses are going to come in the form of wearing 2 or 4 pieces of a 5-piece set. So that gives you flexibility in order to wear an exotic at any point, and then also allows you to mix and match different sets. So you can actually start looking at like gear and go like, oh, I have tier 1, tier 2 of one set, tier 3 of other, and I actually want to like mix match them together for different combinatorics for different build crafting identities. I'm getting like really deep into the weeds here, but the thing that's like really exciting about this is that like one of the perks the team is playing around with that these new set bonuses could give you could be one that's built all around like Tex Mechanica style play, which is like all about hip firing, right, and all about that yeehaw. And then like the more you build into that, you're going to be buffing your Tex Mechanica weapons. And so that's just like one example. But yeah, it's the whole space is just going to like really expand and just become a lot easier to manage in your head and also build complexity.
Sounds great.
So I'm super stoked.
Yeah, no, you guys obviously have been doing a lot of great stuff. So we've touched on armor here briefly. All that sounds awesome, but can you tell us a little bit more about weapons and kind of, how they're going to evolve as well?
Yeah, so
the tier 5s.
We're a little earlier on weapons right now. We wanted to talk about next gen armor because we have a lot of juicy, good plans coming together right now. But for weapons, the thing I can say is that like in the game today, we have higher tiers of weapons to chase, like adepts and raid weapons, right? And so those things with them come with exclusive perks that basically, cut above the noise of other weapons you might be earning in any individual release. And so we know from the tiering perspective of weapons themselves that like, hey, we already have this kind of touchstone for us that we see that works pretty well. And it's like, so it's really like, how can we meet or clear that bar, right? Like how can we create those exclusive chases at the top of that aspirational mountain for players to climb? So,
Okay.
So actually, additionally too, we've heard some concerns that, obviously we're going to maybe be over-indexing on just bringing back reprised weapons. And Guardians will just be out there chasing down something and re-earning something that's just sitting in the...
like I said, my biggest concern with the tier weapons, I'll give like my full thoughts, like I said, at the end of this, but is mainly on the activities. Like if tier 5 weapons can only be acquired in like this specific difficulty and this and this and this, then previous stuff becomes obsolete, like on wanting to do it, because you're getting nothing out of it. And if you go, oh, well, you're getting materials really doesn't matter. And there's like caps to a lot of them that where it's like, I don't care. So it's like, I got worries about that on a video game part because, you don't want to make things obsolete.
The vault anyway.
Like, obviously, I know that you're going to have to do the harder difficulties, but that's not what I'm saying. It's like, if there's activities entirely like useless because you can't get tier 5s or something like that. I don't know.
Can you tell us a little bit more about like kind of the weapon chase and what you guys are planning on doing with each subsequent release?
Yeah, so just to like make sure to clear the air here a little bit, right? Like every expansion, every season, every raid, every dungeon, there's gonna be
season.
New
they said it again.
Right? We're not
they don't even say episodes
down
anymore.
In terms
they
of
just
like
give up.
Making compelling new weapon content.
Cool. Okay.
But the thing about reprisals and revisions that I think is true for a lot of Destiny players is like you have that favorite gun, right? You have that gun that you loved at one point in time, and over time it's just not as useful in the contemporary tuning, activity, sandbox, whatever, right? Like just something about it isn't as good over the years. And so like we did with the Brave Arsenal and Into the Light, like that's our touchstone for like, hey, how can we go in and update, fan favorite weapons, bring them back, breathe some new life into them, and make them interesting to use again. And I also think what's great about that is that people who never got to use their Recluse or Better Devils or something that we haven't reprised just yet, right? Is like, oh, that's their first time experience with it, and they've heard how cool it is.
To all the Guardians who are going to dive into Revenant and get to try Chroma Rush for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
I am trying that gun for the first time. It's so good. I'm glad it's coming back.
It's great.
Okay, that all sounds awesome. So everything that Robbie just spoke to, there's going to be a next-gen article, a next-gen armor article going up on Bungie.net after the stream wraps up. But Robbie, is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, so something that I should probably touch on is like we're talking a lot about like all this cool gear and like, but like there's a question here, right? That immediately becomes posed of like why does it matter, right? Like why do I care about it? And so we've talked a little bit, right, about the fact that there's going to be customizable difficulty coming in Destiny with Frontiers, and then also changes to modifiers and things like that with like the Banes that we announced in the recent blog post. And so to making expansions deeply replayable, kind of like I was talking about earlier in our section, and then the customizable difficulty, and then the new modifier systems. Like these are all things that are being built into a structure so that you're going to need to chase that high tier gear. You're going to need to craft that complex set bonus, perfect combination of Tex Mechanica gear in order to take on some of the hardest challenges inside of the game. And so this isn't just about changing gear. This is also figuring out how we can bring new and interesting challenge to Destiny and how we can really like breathe life into the challenge of the game.
Very exciting. Awesome.
Should be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, plenty more information on that to arrive on the blog that's going to be arriving on Bungie.net shortly after this. But I don't think I'm going to be able to top what Robbie just said. So we'll go ahead and get ready to go ahead and close out the stream here today. By first thanking all of you fine folks at home for joining us today. We love getting a chance to put these streams on and hang out with all of you in the community. And it doesn't mean anything unless you show up. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. As a reminder as well, there's a Twitch shop going on right now. That's a heads up. You can probably see it pinned in chat, but just to remind everyone.
I'm going to guess there's probably not going to be much of anything else showed off other than talking about the, okay, so I'll just kind of have like gameplay in the background, I guess, or just talking, whatever, but, yeah, so in general, I'm curious about this episode, especially since they mentioned a fan favorite activity coming. I guess that's with like Act 2 or Act 3. I have no idea. Because they didn't really like. It's funny how they didn't really dive too much into the episode itself. Granted, though, that obviously because they do like the different acts, so that's most likely why. And they're not going to show us much about the dungeon other than like, here's a picture of the, what it's a concept art. I'm happy Onslaught's getting updates. Where I will say this is that it is crazy to me that I'm guessing with Act 1 that Onslaught is the activity for the start of the episode. And then later, Act 2 will probably have that whatever other mode, fan favorite thing. That's at least what I'm assuming. Because I was assuming that they were going to have some other gimmick kind of mode like they did with, well, a lot of these seasons in general, but episode Echoes where they had the, you're on Nessus and you do these objectives and whatever. So I don't know if that's them basically now saying like, oh yeah, we're going to start having the Onslaught start being a big focus for these episodes in a sense, or just doubling down on the core experience. The thing is though, where actually I won't be surprised if they do battle strikes either in Act 2 or Act 3, because unless they do another exotic mission, I don't know if they will, but that's also like a possibility. I don't know if all the Onslaught maps will be at launch as well, but it's nice that they're adding Scorn. I think they said also the Shadow Cabal. I don't know if they mentioned the Dread as well, or like the Vex, but I've said this long ago that they should not give up on Onslaught, because it is probably the best PvE experience to actually mess with your builds, to have fun, and the reward should be, well, rewarding. The only thing that I'm shocked that they're not doing, I know that they're doing the double perks thing, is no shinies. Like, they should do seasonal shinies. They like, I don't, it's just, it adds a value of like, you had to be there kind of mentality. So like for the season, the only way they get the shiny version with the double perks is playing during that season. Like, the fact that they're not even doing that, they're just having, well, I mean, who knows? I don't know. I didn't listen to every little word that they said. Like, I was talking over them. But if they do that, that's good. But if they don't do that, I think they're really missing on the reason why you saw people actually losing their minds in Onslaught, not just for the double perks, but the like, hey, I got the shiny one. Look at this, and you can't get it anymore. Like, I think that they're really missing out on doing something like that, because it does like give like the players who actually put the time into that actual episode something unique that they only have during when they played the episode when it came out. That's at least how I think about it. It's just like an added layer of like here you go. Kind of grind, and it worked. It did work with Into the Light, so it's kind of crazy if they don't do that. But I mean, I see that they have Widow's Court. I'm curious on the two other maps. I'm gonna guess probably some Patrol one for sure, because I mentioned that that's probably a really smart thing for them to do, is just reuse areas and even Patrol. Like, Onslaught is such a genius recycled idea. The only issue that I have is where if Bungie starts being like, well, what's the point of making brand new stuff when we could just reuse and just do Onslaught? Onslaught should just be like an easy, here's more content kind of idea, rather than the replacement of new content. Like, you should still have new things, but I've said that they need to make core activities that you replay useful to play, for loot and experience, like just like have fun. Like, Vanguard Ops is not really fun to play because of a lot of them being battlegrounds, and the other thing is the strikes just don't have the same, like, I mean, they're updating them like regularly now, in a way, but they need to be at like add density of like the I mean, Sepics, even before like Onslaught came out, like Sepics, that was a really good example of like what a strike should be. And I've said this so many times, but strikes need to get like a huge revamp where they take the things that were in Destiny 1 and in Destiny 2 and take them further. Like, it's crazy to me that we still don't have like what Destiny 1 did well. Like, they went backwards with Destiny 2 strikes, where in Destiny 1 you would have like different things happen. And like, oh, it could be this enemy or that enemy. And even like the bosses could change at the end. And they don't do that anymore. Like, Destiny 2 just like, oh yeah, that whole concept that we were evolving with Destiny 1, yeah, who cares about it? Like, what happened there? Because they could have done something like that to spice things up when doing like the strike playlist. That was like the whole point, to not be like, oh, to expect every strike to play out the same. To make them unique with the gameplay of like the enemies that spawn, to the bosses that spawn, to maybe like the ways that you go around the map. It's really disappointing that they didn't do anything further with that for Destiny 2. They went backwards instead, which is, like I said, really disappointing. So I really do hope that like going forward they change that. I heard, I think we read that where it's like they even were like, yeah, you know, we're gonna revamp our core playlist, specifically with like strikes, how you know, they were like, oh, Battlegrounds taking over and whatever. So I think they even agreed that Battlegrounds was bad. I can't remember that whole blog, but I think that was what they were basically saying. So I hope that's what they were saying. But I know that, like I said, I'm not going to judge the fact that Onslaught's back, because I wanted that on the this is what the core experience is going to be for the episode, because it's, again, this is I love Onslaught. It's so fun. And if the rewards are good enough, then great. I mean, double perks and all that stuff. So good. We got the new dungeon as well. So it's like this is actually on a gameplay standpoint, I'm excited because of that. If the dungeon it sucks, then we just have Onslaught. like for a good example is the exotic mission for last episode. I was like, it's good, but not good enough to where I want to replay it a ton of times. And they made you replay it a ton of times to do the quests and stuff. And yeah, it just wasn't good. I didn't really enjoy it as much as the Vexcalibur one. And it's a real shame. So like, I'm not saying that the dungeon will turn out that way, but like if it does, that's bad. But normally the dungeons are pretty good. Even Duality, which is the one that I feel like I'm like about the most out of all of them, it still was enjoyable to play to an extent. And the loot was good. That's the other big thing. So yeah, with Act 1, it's sounding nice. Like I'm not like, oh man, I'm not gonna play it. I genuinely like anything that deals with Mithrax in general. And Ido, and we got that for the story. I hate Scorn though, but if it means that we're getting rid of Scorn or we're taking them out, like just screw you, then this is great. Let's do it. Makes me even more like yeah, let's do this. So I don't know. I'll be curious about how this episode plays out with the axe. Like I hope it keeps my attention because I do obviously as much as I am critical about Destiny, that's what a lot of you don't realize. I'm being critical. I'm giving criticism. I'm not complaining. I want Destiny to do well because I want to play it a lot. That's why. But if I feel like the game is not enjoyable, then I'm going to criticize because I want it to make it be that game that I just don't want to put down ever because it's fun and it's rewarding and whatever. So I hope this episode turns out a lot better than the last one, because the last one was rough. But when it comes to the other things, though, I mean, well, even before that, the weapons also sound very nice. Like that they've explained some of the perks and stuff sound really nice, so I'm excited about that. But the frontiers. So I already talked about this when I read the blog post, but I'm still not believing their spicy words that they like to throw, like Metroidvania, Forsaken, remember the Dreaming City and how that felt? Hey, you know, we're gonna do a non-linear story, like things like that. And if it just plays out like I mentioned, the Barons of the the adventures, like they're just like, oh, we're bringing adventures back. We're you get to choose which ones you do first, but it doesn't matter of the impact of the story on where you go. Then it's nothing as crazy as they make it out to be, other than just for convenience. On like you as the player to be like, oh, I want to do this instead, you know? So when it comes to like the patrol and stuff, where I'm curious though is the replayability, because they mentioned that is a big problem with the expansions, is what is worth to do after. Like even the campaign for the Final Shape, it was good, but like replaying the story is not really that worthwhile anymore. Like you had that one difficulty mode thing where you had to share this buff or debuff and stuff like that, like to make it more interesting. But the only reason why you were doing that was, one, maybe a chance to an exotic class item, or continue to get like pinnacle drops for your power level, which power level is still my big problem. I don't know, like, so I'm not gonna scream and yell about the power grind that they are increasing, but it sounds to me like this one, they're not gonna have a cap. They said it in this one, but I don't know if they mean like as in like we could just keep getting stronger to the point where we take out enemies so easily because of the artifact or something like that. Or if it's going to be like, oh yeah, there's still going to be a cap at some point that's traditional. It's just I don't really know, because that's kind of why the power grind is laughable to me. And I just hate that they talk about the artifact as the grind, like cool XP is the grind. Like, great. Like, that's just, it's not it. At least the way that the artifact works on the XP grinds and how we get XP. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is their way of like trying to get people to turn in their seasonal challenges instead of holding on to them for like the next act. They're like, oh, we gotta try to get people to keep playing through the season pass or episode pass. So I don't know, but yeah, I like how they changed the boss area as well with Onslaught with this. So like new areas that fit the theme of the episode and so on. It's just evolving the mode instead of giving up on it is nice. So, but I just wanted to make that point as well, since I see that pop up with this gameplay again. But yeah, when it comes to Frontiers, also I will talk about the vault stuff as a worry when they talk about the armor. If you want me to, I can read the blog post. I haven't yet. This is just me first reacting to this. But if you want to know my thoughts on like the blog that they posted about the armor, I can do that too. But yeah, it's just because people were really confused on why I was being like, oh yeah, I don't trust Bungie anymore. It's just because, fool me once, fool me twice. They've done this for a very long time where they use specific words, like spicy words, to get your attention for marketing and whatever. And then you play it, and it's nothing even close to what they were trying to say. Like, even them saying, oh yeah, the loop of the hologram story stuff, like in the seasons, and even the most recent episode, like, yeah, we hate it too. We're going to change that. They said that before, too, that, oh, they were going to change this and change that. And it didn't really change. I mean, here's a prime example. They were like, oh, we see the feedback of leveling, like, the season vendor. If you remember that, people were just tired of seeing that constantly be the same thing over and over, where it's just you're leveling the season vendor in a specific way and to get more rewards or whatever. And it was just always the same. Like, there was nothing unique anymore. It was just playing it safe and doing the same thing. They technically never change that. Like, it's just that now you have to you have to wait week by week to get all of the changes, like all the upgrades. If you look at like even episode echoes, it's the same thing with the specimens are kind of like those upgrades where you get the charge back if you hit the node thing or whatever for the episode and stuff like that. Like, those are what people were like tired of, is just that concept of just the same. Like, people were like, oh, the menagerie was a good example on being like a lot different because of it being a different mechanic than just like, oh, it's a vendor that you upgrade. You had this actual thing that you could combine this and that. So like, I don't know. And that's why I'm curious about the whole, cooking that we're going to be doing with Ido. That sounds really fun and interesting with like the buffs and stuff. So I don't know, but it could be just a gimmick. But with Frontiers, yeah, it's just, they say these things, but it's like, you got to show it now. And that's not me being like completely like, oh, you're just being ridiculous. Like, really think about it. Like, they've done this for so long. And for me, playing Destiny since Destiny 1 launched, you get to that point. Like, maybe some of you jumped on to Destiny a little bit later, maybe like when Destiny 2 came out, or a little bit later with Destiny 2, but I think that a lot of people who have been around with Destiny and hearing what Bungie says and stuff about this and that since like, way back, like any veteran players, you probably are like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like all this stuff that they've, said we'll do this, and they do the opposite from what they were saying or whatever. It's just a lot of stuff that it's gotten to the point where it has been exhausting. So with Frontiers, it's I hope that it's good. I mean, just them mentioning Rise of Iron, that's another spicy word. Or spicy words. They do this. So if like Frontiers comes out and it feels nothing on like the same value that Rise of Iron felt for us, like the players that did experience that day one, like, and even then Rise of Iron was like judged on its length. Compared to obviously the Taken King, but it had a lot of quality to it, especially with like the raid and the rewards and stuff like that. How the patrol turned out. So who knows? It might be amazing. I think they go back to like talking, so I'll just kind of loop back at the gameplay, because they didn't really have a lot of gameplay in the background, especially when they talked about Frontiers, which is obvious because we can't show you anything yet because we're not ready. And then them mentioning the armor. Okay, so this is where I was going to say, oh no, our vault. They better answer those problems first as quickly as possible. Because, yeah. Like, I mean, what they basically make it out to be is that they're essentially telling us that, oh yeah, our old armor is going to be obsolete, and we might as well just not have it, which, wow. But if it's enough to like, where like this new armor is way better, where it doesn't feel like, oh wow, they just want us to regrind, like where it's like sunsetting, then I have no problems with having to delete old armor and do it again. But with what they were talking about, like with the set bonuses and such, like that's going to lead to us having now a full set of armor. So 5 pieces of armor for each character with now for these sets. And that's going to add up very quickly. That's where I'm very, very worried. They need to answer vault space before then. Like at this rate, they might as well have start doing like, okay, here's your section of 700 for weapons alone. And then here's another section of like 400 for armor alone. Like separate in categories and kind of thing, like how they did in Destiny 1, except where it's like we're getting more vault space, but they're more tying into specific like pieces. Like here's armor, here's weapons. But so like I don't really know what they really could do, but it's just, I mean, the other thing that I mentioned is that they should allow us to take like weapons and slot them into our collections, like our favorite role that we have, and just put it into the collections. And it so it would be like a separate vault. So like if we ever want that roll back for convenience, we can just pull it back. And it will be at the power level that you are, and you don't have to use like materials or something to pull it. But dismantling doesn't give you anything, so there's no cheeses with it. But I don't know if you know what I mean. Like you would just be able to, because like the collections, you can see all the weapons, but it'd be nice if we could slot like maybe like 2 versions of each of those weapons that we have into them, so then we could pull them out whenever we want, because then it would make it easier to just part ways with our favorite weapons that we don't really need at like the moment or whatever, to clear things out, so then we can make a huge focus on our armor. I know that they have that concept sort of with exotics, but I think that I still have the issue with exotics where one, and this also plays a big role for people that like the whole like show off numbers, but like how many kills that you have on like a masterworked weapon, that should also stay on the collection item and stuff. And same thing goes for exotics, because I know that if you dismantle it, I think that it goes away if you try and bring back a new one. But yeah, all these exotics, like weapons alone, I just have in my vault. I never dismantle them. It doesn't matter if it's like a poopy exotic or something like that. It's just I don't want to go through the whole process of bringing it back out of my collections. But if there's a way to make it easier, then I guess it won't be that much of a big problem. Like as in where it doesn't cost materials, and it will also be at the max power if I am at the max power. So I don't have to do any infusing, because that's also a big issue that they really, really need to answer when it comes to the power grinds. But yeah, when it comes to just that, I'm thinking more on the larger issue, like I said, the vault space. Like, it's cool that they're revamping armor to be what they make it out to be, which sounds cool. I just hope that they don't make it where for PvE that's still, once again, resilience is the main thing you want, because it gives you that. Like, they should just change resilience to not just be like, oh, a survivability entirely kind of thing. Like, maybe rework it a bit. I don't know, because it is still like, oh, you have to have max resilience to do the end game content, or you're just too squishy. Like, just, it doesn't matter if it's a small benefit. It's a benefit, and you like need that. It just, I don't know. But yeah, and the other thing I will say with the set bonuses, like when they were saying like, oh, Tex Mechanica like set bonus for like hip fires, it's like if it's not enough of a big push, then I really don't care about the set bonuses. Like if it's just like, oh, we better reload on hand cannons, like, wow. What I expect from like set bonuses is more aligns to like full on either like the activity, which I'm gonna guess that they will do like for like raids and dungeons, because that's my big problem with like dungeons and raids is the armor means nothing. It's just the mods that you get for like the raids. And like dungeons, they don't even have those. But if there's like a reason to collect the armor for like those end game stuff for set bonuses, that'll be nice. So good. But yeah, if it's just like really small set bonuses where it just feels like we're going back to D1 armor like set, like not sets, but like I think that in D1 that they had that where it's like if you wanted a better reload, like it was on the armor pieces itself. If the set bonuses are just basically what our mods are, I'm curious of what if the mods are staying too. I don't know if they mentioned that in here, but they probably do in the blog. So that's why I said if you want me to read that and get my thoughts on it, I will go more in depth on my thoughts on this one specifically when I read that. But I'm more or less just talking about like is it going to be worth it? So I hope, because yeah, armor means nothing other than for fashion and getting your set levels to it, and that's it. But yeah, I'll be curious. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But in the end, I like what they showed off here. I like what they talk about with the story, with like what they're going for Frontiers and stuff. Like, I just hope that it's true. Again, all of it sounds great. It's just that if it's not exactly what they're using, like if the spicy words were actually not so spicy, where you take a bite out of it and it's like, wait, where's the spice? Where's the flavor? There's no seasoning on this. What is going on? Like, if it's just bland in comparison to what they're talking about, that's where my problem lies. So that's where it's like, I want to believe, but until you show me, I'm still going to be like, I don't know. Because I've been fooled. Everyone's been fooled way too many times. It's just, it's a real shame, because I should be like really, really hyped about these changes and stuff. But I'm worried, because every single thing that they normally do is like to cut corners and this and this. Like, it's not really to make things like, oh, this is now like the best thing ever. But I would like to go back to this moment and be like, wow, Chaby, you're ridiculous. This is the most amazing expansion thing idea that they ever did. I hope that how it turns out. But I won't talk your ear off for another, half an hour, another hour. Just wanted to see what this was like, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode just because Onslaught. Just that alone. I'm not even just like the weapons, but just Onslaught, because I enjoy that. Is it enough for me to want to play like every single day? I don't know. Like I said, that's my biggest issue with Destiny, is just replayability on a video game standpoint, and then having the loot also be there. But we'll see. But thank you so much for listening and watching and whatever. And I'll see you in the next video. And yes, I will be doing the dungeon. I will be streaming all that stuff. So I'll be doing all that live when all this new stuff comes out. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having a chibi-tastic day, night, evening, wherever you are. I'll see you in the next video. Chibi out.